In the thick forests of Europe during the Second World War, survival often came down to being unseen. German soldiers mastered camouflage not as decoration but as a tool of life and death. Entire units disappeared into woodland, blending into landscapes where the untrained eye would swear no human stood. Their methods weren't about fancy equipment but about clever adaptation of natural surroundings and disciplined practice. This wasn't just soldiering, it was survival. For preppers and homesteaders today, these techniques still hold value. Learning how camouflage was applied in real combat offers lessons for anyone who wants to stay unnoticed in a world where being seen can sometimes be the greatest risk. German soldiers understood that blending in started with the uniform. By the late stages of the war, the German military began issuing specialized camouflage patterns. Units like the Waffen-SS wore smocks and helmet covers printed with mottled greens, browns and blacks. These weren't artistic designs but science at work. The goal was to break up the outline of a human figure so that at a distance it looked like scattered leaves or shadow, not a soldier. For preppers, the principle is simple. It's not about wearing a green jacket in the woods. It's about breaking up the recognizable human shape. A straight silhouette stands out in nature. By wearing patterned fabrics or layering different tones, anyone can reduce the chances of being spotted. Even a homemade poncho painted with irregular blotches of brown and green can serve the same function as those wartime smocks. Helmets and gear were disguised to prevent reflection and outline. One of the easiest giveaways in the field was the shine of a helmet or the straight line of equipment. German soldiers solved this by covering helmets with cloth wraps, nets or burlap. Into these nets they tucked fresh leaves, grass or even strips of cloth torn from uniforms. The idea was constant adjustment. As the landscape changed, so did the camouflage. Soldiers moving from forest to field swapped out greenery for straw or dirt to match the terrain. The application today is clear. A shiny metal water bottle, a polished axe head, or even a bright backpack can reveal your position faster than movement itself. Covering reflective items with cloth, paint, or mud eliminates that danger. Nets and wraps are easy to make, and honestly, the discipline of constantly adapting your gear to your surroundings is one of the simplest but most effective lessons drawn straight from World War II practice. Movement discipline was the most important camouflage of all. Uniforms and painted helmets could only do so much. What truly kept soldiers alive was their ability to move without breaking the natural rhythm of the environment. German troops were trained to freeze when an enemy looked their way, to crouch low against tree lines, and to time movements with distractions like wind rustling leaves or planes overhead. Camouflage wasn't just on the body, it was in behavior. For anyone serious about stealth today, this lesson is non-negotiable. It doesn't matter how much camouflage you wear if you walk upright across an open field. Practicing slow, deliberate steps, using cover, and stopping often is more effective than any piece of fabric. Even in a backyard setting, testing how visible you are when walking slowly through trees compared to rushing across a lawn can prove the power of disciplined movement. Terrain and background were studied before positioning. The Germans didn't just throw on a camo smock and hope for the best. Before setting up in an area, soldiers studied the terrain. They looked at shadow patterns, at how trees clustered, and at the way ground cover broke the landscape. A soldier who lay in direct sunlight would stand out, but one who found a patch where shadows fell unevenly could vanish from view. This principle applies directly to preppers. Before setting up a camp, study where natural concealment is strongest. A tarp strung in an open field will always be a beacon, no matter the colour. But tucked against a tree line with dappled light overhead, even plain fabric disappears. The key is to let the terrain do most of the work and then blend into it rather than forcing camouflage into the wrong place. Improvised camouflage worked when supplies were scarce. Not every soldier had access to issued camo gear. Many relied on improvised methods. Mud smeared on faces, branches tied to shoulders, and torn cloth strips added bulk that disrupted the human shape. Helmets were painted with hand-applied blotches and coats were dusted with soil to dull their colour. Resourcefulness mattered more than factory patterns. For today's prepper or survivalist, the takeaway is, well, pretty powerful. You don't need expensive gear to camouflage effectively. A basic step-by-step approach can be as simple as this. First, dull any shine with mud, charcoal or paint. Second, attach natural materials from your surroundings like grass or twigs. Third, break up your outline by hanging irregular shapes off your shoulders or pack. With those 3 steps, anyone can vanish more effectively than someone in a brand new store-bought camo outfit. Perhaps the most overlooked aspect of German camouflage was mental discipline. Soldiers trusted their concealment. They held their positions even when enemies were close, knowing that sudden panic or unnecessary movement would betray them. Confidence in camouflage was as much a shield as the patterns themselves. For modern application, this means training yourself to trust your setup. Once you've camouflaged gear, covered reflective surfaces, and blended with your environment, resisting the urge to constantly shift or check your concealment is vital. The confidence to remain still, even when uncomfortable, is the true test of whether your camouflage is effective. German soldiers in World War II developed camouflage into an art of survival. Their methods, breaking up outlines, disguising helmets and gear, controlling movement, reading terrain, and improvising with whatever was at hand, are still as relevant now as they were then. For preppers and homesteaders, these lessons are more than history. They are practical skills rooted in discipline and resourcefulness that anyone can adopt to stay unseen when it matters most. If you want more history-backed survival knowledge and practical takeaways you can apply in your own backyard, subscribe to Backyard Wisdom and share this video with others who value preparedness. Because the lessons of camouflage, tested in the hardest conditions of World War II, remain evergreen tools for anyone who understands that sometimes the best defense is being invisible.